I want to just spend the next 15 minutes or so and just kind of give our break or kind of takeaways here from the football game. But first, I want to hear from some of the players. It doesn't matter who you throw up first, Lucas, but here are some of the Lions players commenting on the loss yesterday to the Seattle Seahawks.
It's just a marathon. Everybody fought hard on both sides of the ball. The best team on the day. Ain't nothing you can say, ain't nothing you can do. You just got to do better on our end, get necessary stops, get the ball back offense, let them go down the score. Like I said, it was a good game. We fought on both sides.
I felt like we did a defensively good job stopping the run. I think they had 80-something rushing yards. But at the end of the day, we got to make those crunch time plays, and defense has to figure out a way to get a stop in overtime to, help seal the deal. So yeah, you just got to lift each other up. There's a ton to clean up. Number one on my mind is tackling, and just playing sound football. Defensively, I felt like we were able to do that for the most part. Just in those crunch times, we got to figure out a way to make a play.
We don't give up. I mean, it's down 10. I mean, we still got to play. There's no give up in this team. It's still week 2. We're still trying to figure some stuff out on our end, but we head to it and watch this film and see what we got to continue to clean up.
Now, those are the players, Josh Reynolds, Alex Anzalone, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, speaking on the loss yesterday to the Seattle Seahawks. I'll start first with my takeaways, and it'll be very brief here because it's nothing surprising. I mean, yesterday, if you want to talk about what stuck out to me, besides the pick six by Jared Goff, that was one hell of a football game by Jared. Like, I want to say that. The guy played his absolute heart out. The offense at home scored in every quarter until OT, and he didn't get the football. So, Jared Goff, I want to start by saying that. Even with the guys coming in and out of the offensive line, right? The Amon-Ra St. Brown goes out for a play or two. You got David Montgomery out of the football game. Craig Reynolds comes into the football game. And you got essentially rookies out there that are helping out with big drives, which is big time, right? Jameer, and then, of course, Sam Laporta on that one drive where it was pretty much just all Laporta. But Jared Goff deserves a ton of credit for how he played yesterday, besides the pick six. But again, this is a guy who went over 400 passes without throwing a pick. Unfortunately, though, the pick was returned for a touchdown. So that's the unfortunate part. But I want to start by saying that Jared Goff overall yesterday, 28 for 35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Had 121.8 passer rating. Like, I'll take that besides the pick six. But even if he throws a pick, I'll take that every week from Jared Goff. So I want to start by saying that. Give credit where it's due there. Next, I want to point out Sam Laporta. That was what he's been doing the first 2 games, and I know we always talk about tight ends, they start slow. I mean, he has 5 catches week 1, 5 catches week 2. Like, this is a guy that, again, I know tight ends are going to they always take the hardest position for a rookie to step in and just master. But for Laporta to have 10 catches in 2 weeks, had 63 yards yesterday, showing a little bit of that yak ability, I want to give him a ton of credit as well yesterday. Now, I do want to say defensively, this is where you come to a crossroad because we only have a 2-game sample size. 1 game on the road in Kansas City, the defense looked great. Now, no Travis Kelce, but still against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, defense looks great. And then week 2, they do that. Like, and I don't want to give out too much, but defensively, that's a problem. Specifically, that defensive line, but you could talk about all 3 levels and essentially share blame there. Now, the next takeaway I want to say is that I'm not going to overreact to this loss because in the NFL, and we talked about this last week, there's going to be games that you are either close to winning or you think you should win and you just don't. Even though it's unfortunate, and last year you look at some of those games that the Lions could not win that ended up costing them a playoff spot. You look at Miami, I was there. They were up 10 at halftime, didn't score in the second half. You bring up Seattle not forcing a punt. You saw that game played out, and nobody thought that those games would cost them a playoff spot later in the season. So you have to think about it like that. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, it is a long season. You got Atlanta coming up, right? And they're 2-0, but still, at least this Lions team, not saying they were, getting cocky or anything like that, but they did get humbled at home. Like that. Hopefully can kind of reshift their focus to this upcoming week now against the Falcons at home again. So maybe they needed it. Even though it's not ideal, you'd much rather the Lions be 2-0 But at the end of the day, they weren't, at least how they played, they were not supposed to win that game. They still found a way to compete. They went to OT and never got the ball back. So it's an unfortunate loss, but it's not the end of the world, Sam Flair. That's my takeaway.
You know, it's not the end of the world, of course, but I am going to overreact a little bit because, quite simply, the Lions gave this game away to the Seahawks on a silver platter. There were 4 plays that you simply cannot make in any NFL game if you want to win. I don't care who you are. In the second quarter, I'll start with the first one. With the score tied at 7, the Lions face a 4th and 4 from the Falcons' 31-yard line, and the Lions, they go for it, and they don't convert. That would have been a 48-yard field goal attempt, which, by the way, Riley Patterson in his career is 83% in his career from kicks between 40 and 49 yards. The Seahawks, they didn't do anything with it when they got the ball back, but that might have directly, and by the numbers it did, directly took 3 points off the board for the Detroit Lions in a game that was tied at the end of regulation. And let's go to next one, the first possession out of halftime. The Lions go into halftime with a 14-7 lead. I personally thought, with the way the Lions offense had been moving the ball, the way Jared Goff had been playing, that the Lions were going to take that kickoff and go score a touchdown and basically take complete control of the game. What actually happened on the very first play, David Montgomery fumbles, which directly leads to a 2-play, 23-yard Seahawks touchdown drive that ties the game. So instead of having a 2-possession lead, or at the very worst, punting the football and flipping field position, you basically gift the Seahawks 7 points. And how about this next one? With the Lions up 21-17 again, they scored a touchdown, they hold the Seahawks to a field goal. The Lions are faced with a 4th and 2 from their own 45-yard line. They did not learn the lesson of earlier, which the lesson is you don't always have to go for it. They miss, and it directly leads to a 9-play, 45-yard touchdown drive for the Seattle Seahawks.
That
basically
takes time off the clock.
Absolutely. Because the Seahawks really milked that one. So instead of maybe pinning the Seahawks inside their own 10, they give the Seahawks a short field, and the Seahawks go ahead and take advantage of it, and now they are up 24-21 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And then, of course, this is not a day to crap on Jared Goff, because besides for the play that I'm about to mention, Jared Goff played almost a perfect game. But then the very next Lions possession, with the Seahawks up 24-21, Jared Goff throws a pick 6, which directly leads to the Seahawks getting 6 points, and the Seahawks then lead 31-21. So let me recap. The first mistake more than likely took 3 points off the board. The second mistake set up a 23-yard touchdown drive for the Seahawks. The third mistake set up a 45-yard touchdown drive for the Seahawks. And the fourth mistake directly led to 6 points in a game, again, that was tied at the end of regulation. And the Lions and the Seahawks, the biggest difference between the Lions and the Seahawks is the Seahawks did not turn the ball over. They did not make those critical mistakes. The Lions, when they had their touchdown drives, they had to go 75, 75, 75, and 65 respectively. And the Seahawks basically had 2 short field drives and a pick 6. To me, that is the difference in the game, and that is why this one burns in my cross so much, because the Lions should have won.
Yeah.
I'd say in most ways they outplayed the Seahawks, but they just kept shooting themselves in the damn foot. I don't care whose fault it was, whether it was Dan Campbell, the players. I think we could spread the blame all around. That was an inexcusable loss, and it deflated me so bad.
Now, I wanted you to bring it up because I didn't want to steal your thunder there, but I 100% agree with you about the field goal there that essentially swung the other way. Seattle went down and scored pretty much immediately, to your point. So, again, this whole thing with Dan Campbell, and I want to, because I hate being the Monday quarterback, right? Monday morning quarterback, where you wake up, you go on the show, and you say, man, you shouldn't win for it when it doesn't work, but when it works, you don't say anything. Like, even when we were watching the game, we're all like, oh, I don't know if I'd go for it here. Like, you get a free 3 points, essentially, and last year was decided by 3 points. Like, especially at home, you just sometimes take the points. Now, the fact that they didn't get it, and of course, the defense, you could bring up the defense, which, again, that defense doesn't go with no blame either. Last 2 years, this year's game and last year's game, the defense has given up almost 1,000 total yards of offense. That is ridiculous. 1,000 yards of offense in 2 games? They gave up 500 last year, and they gave up almost 400 this year. Like, that is inexcusable. That is blasphemous. That is so. Of course, you want to bring up the not going for it or not kicking the field goal, of course. But you could also bring up the defense not getting an effing stop. Like, that's the other problem too. So defensively, they got some things to work on there, Lucas. But what are some of your takeaways?
In my opinion, this was simply and I'm not gonna start the fire Dan Campbell train, but in my opinion, this simply came down to Pete Carroll out coaching Dan Campbell. The Lions, they wanted to start off hot, like Dan Campbell said, in the first half and the second half. They really didn't do it either way. Seattle, without a doubt, made the better halftime adjustments and put themselves in a position to put their best players, especially DK Metcalf. They kept exploiting DK Metcalf on Jerry Jacobs time and time and time again, and the Lions would not adjust. This comes down to coaching, in my opinion. The Lions were the more talented team. I don't think there's any way you can say it might be close, but especially when Tariq Woolen goes down for Seattle, let's not act like that's not huge for them. Evan Brown left the game too. The Lions did not capitalize on anything that was given to them theoretically. They didn't capitalize on anything. I think the one thing that you can point to as a positive, and people are still going to probably bash him, is Jared Goff. Jared Goff was the thing that was holding this team together, and if you're going to blame Jared Goff for that pick six, I want to ask you a question. You have a rookie running back running a little inside slant route out of the backfield. If he takes that step quicker, if he takes that cut a yard quicker before, that ball is not going to be behind him. That comes down to just communication between the quarterback and running back. I'm not blaming Jared Goff that much for that pick six. That has to do with a lot of the timing in the route. But it comes down to coaching and just that defensive line. I don't understand how that defensive line only got like 6 or 7 pressures on the game.
Yeah.
Geno Smith had all day to sit back there and throw. All they kept doing was hitting under routes. Like, Geno Smith did not air out the ball once. It was all just he was taking what was given to him.